Generating complex scholarly arguments places an immense pressure on the mind. It requires holding incredibly fragile concepts together in a delicate, continuous balance. We see this struggle clearly in a recent reflection post from a doctoral student. They note the deep challenge of maintaining clarity and precision, alongside the specific frustration of constantly checking APA 7th edition guides to ensure compliance. This captures a widespread paradox in early academic writing. The writer is attempting to forge a sharp, coherent argument, while simultaneously interrupting their own thought process to verify formatting rules. Every time the writer relies on an external manual for compliance, they step out of their argument. The focus required to connect complex ideas breaks. This frustration has nothing to do with the writer's intellect. It is the result of a hardware limitation in the human drafting workflow. Novice writers often treat APA guidelines as a final coat of paint, a superficial layer applied after the real work is finished. For the scholar, these guidelines serve as the structural environment where the writing takes place. When these rules remain external to the writer, they impose what researchers call a cognitive tax. This drain on resources targets the brain's limited working memory in the exact moment of synthesis and drafting. If these rules are not internalized, the mental energy required to follow them will continuously pull focus away from the underlying scholarly argument. To understand why, look at working memory as a single, finite container, holding all actively processed information. Trying to write an argument while checking APA rules forces that container to split its resources across two competing data streams. This split is the mechanical cause of the frustration the student noticed when constantly consulting their 7th edition guide. It triggers a performance drop known as the dual task penalty. The human brain cannot truly multitask. Instead, it rapidly switches its attention back and forth between building logical arguments and verifying structural rules. That rapid context switching generates severe system lag. The processing flow stutters and active data gets dropped. Every single time you pause to consult a manual, your working memory clears its current cache and executes a hard reset. The second you look away from your prose to check a citation rule, the logical momentum you were building evaporates. The subtle nuance and deep analytical connections, the other considerations for writing, are wiped from your mind during that reset. This rapid switching creates a state where deep synthesis and manual rule checking cannot effectively occupy the same mental space at the same time. We can see the physical evidence of this cognitive strain directly in the written text. Scholarly clarity requires the ability to hold a multivariable argument intact, weaving distinct concepts together across several paragraphs. When an external formatting check forces its way into your attention, it severs the links in your logical architecture. The immediate result on the page is fragmented sentences. The overarching narrative thread breaks down into disjointed statements. Precision, meanwhile, relies on deploying exact terminology and meticulously framing your data. Under heavy cognitive tax, the brain subconsciously defaults to simpler, weaker vocabulary just to keep the sentence moving forward. You might feel confident that you are writing with purpose, yet the actual output is hollowed out by divided attention. This explains why the student discovered they were missing other considerations during the proofreading phase. Those textual blind spots are the direct residue of the dual task penalty. Clunky, imprecise early drafts rarely stem from weak ideas. They are often the physical debris of an overloaded cognitive dashboard. The student's proposed remedy is to internalize these guidelines at a doctoral level. From a cognitive perspective, this internalization requires a specific shift in how the brain stores and retrieves information. It requires moving formatting rules into procedural memory, the system used for executing automated skills. Watch a master pianist play a complex sonata. Their conscious mind focuses on emotional expression, while procedural memory handles the exact placement of their fingers. An elite academic operates the same way. The mind should not have to expend active thought on citation structures or heading formats. When we apply the solution to the bandwidth model, the compliance stream detaches from your working memory and drops into a silent, automated background layer. The primary cognitive resources available to the writer rapidly expand, pulsing with unimpeded flow. With formatting running silently in the background, you finally possess the bandwidth to track high-level abstractions and complex logic. Internalized standard formatting operates as an invisible grid. It catches and shapes your raw text without conscious effort. True doctoral-level writing begins when the mechanical rules of the game become completely invisible to your conscious mind. Once cognitive bandwidth is fully liberated, those missing other considerations come into sharp focus. Structural nuances, narrative flow, and academic tone shift from being conscious checklists to intuitive senses. The proofreading phase changes. You stop fixing formatting errors and start refining intellectual arguments. Reaching this state of flow demands intense, deliberate practice and memorization early in your doctoral journey. The temporary pain of memorizing the manual is the only permanent cure for the persistent frustration of fragmented drafting. If we return to the student's initial reflection, we can see the relationship between these cognitive states. By stripping away the context, we see a direct sequence of requirements. Internalization leads to clarity, which in turn enables precision. Stop checking the manual during active argument generation. Study the structural framework offline. Master it so it operates as an automatic, invisible filter during live drafting. Elevate formatting to an internalized architecture and reserve your absolute cognitive bandwidth for the rigor of your ideas.